Ever feel like, I don't know, like society is held together by like unspoken agreements?
Definitely, yeah, those unwritten rules we all kind of agree to live by.
Exactly. And today we're going way back to a time when those agreements, well, they were literally etched in stone.
Oh, you're talking about the Ten Commandments, right?
Well, we're going a bit beyond that, actually. We're diving into Exodus, chapters 22 through 24, to uncover some fascinating stuff about law, social responsibility, and a truly epic covenant.
So we're digging even deeper into the laws that shaped everyday life for the Israelites.
You got it. We're going beyond the well-trodden territory of the Ten Commandments to unearth the laws that, well, they really give us a window into what these people valued.
It's like a snapshot of their values, what they prioritize, their sense of justice, all the things they thought were essential for a functioning society.
Right. Okay, so let's jump into this book of the covenant. Exodus 22 kicks off with property rights, and get this, steal an ox, and you don't just get a slap on the wrist, you're hit with a fine of 5 oxen.
Wow, talk about consequences. But it makes sense when you think about it. In a world where an ox wasn't just property, it was your livelihood, your ability to provide for your family. The punishment might seem harsh, but it was designed to truly make the victim whole and, let's be real, make anyone think twice about stealing.
No kidding. It really highlights that whole idea of making amends. Okay, but then there's this burnt bush law in Exodus 22.6, totally thought-provoking. You accidentally start a fire that burns someone's field, you are on the hunt for the damages.
That one really highlights the emphasis on personal responsibility woven throughout these texts. It's acknowledging that even unintentional actions have consequences, that we have to own up to the impact of our choices, even the accidents. That's a pretty timeless principle, wouldn't you say?
It's a good reminder to be careful with those campfires, that's for sure. But it's not all about property and accidental fires. Exodus also shows a deep concern for the vulnerable widows, orphans, strangers. Exploiting them, that's a big no-no, repeatedly condemned, shows a real commitment to social justice, don't you think?
Absolutely. Caring for the marginalized, making sure that everyone, especially those most susceptible to being taken advantage of, had some level of security, of dignity, that was key to this legal system. It's interesting, right, how those principles are still something we're working on, debating in our own societies.
Totally, like holding a mirror up to our own values. Now, you might think these ancient lawmakers were all about, stern punishments and protecting the vulnerable, which they were. But then Exodus 22 throws a curveball with this whole cloak and creditor thing. You could actually take a poor person's cloak as collateral for a debt.
Yeah, but here's the catch, and it's a big one. You had to give it back by nightfall.
Wait, really? Why? Because even creditors understood the concept of a good night's sleep.
Well, I think it's more than that. It reveals something really interesting about these laws. It's not just about cold, hard justice, right? It's about balancing that justice with compassion, recognizing that even in the midst of financial hardship, people deserve basic dignity.
I never thought about it like that.
It's a good reminder that we're talking about real people, real lives, and these laws. They were trying to find that balance between fairness and empathy.
So we've got laws about property, accidents, taking care of the less fortunate, even what you can and can't take for a debt. This Book of the Covenant, it's pretty comprehensive.
It really is. It lays the groundwork for a whole society.
But how do these words on a scroll actually become the defining code of an entire nation? That's where Exodus 24 comes in, and let me tell you, it makes signing on the dotted line look like, well, a total snooze fest. This is the big leagues.
This is where things get really interesting. We're moving from individual laws to the creation of a covenant, a binding agreement between God and the Israelites. And this wasn't just a casual handshake. This was a momentous occasion filled with symbolism. It was a turning point that would shape their destiny forever. This part of Exodus, it always gets to me. Imagine it, this whole nation gathered at the foot of Mount Sinai, right?
And their future is hanging in the balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're all publicly pledging themselves to this covenant, to this totally new way of life.
It's a powerful moment. You can really feel the weight of it.
Yeah, like a collective deep breath,
Totally. It makes you think about the times we've made similar commitments, right? To a cause or a community, something we really believe in.
Absolutely. Those moments where we say, this is it, this is who I am, this is what I stand for.
Yes. Okay, but it doesn't stop there. Once the covenant is sealed, Moses, he goes up Mount Sinai, and not just for a hike.
Not just for the view.
He's going to receive the stone tablets with the law, straight from God.
Talk about a high-stakes meeting.
Seriously. And the way it's described, it's like stepping into another world. Exodus says it was a pavement of sapphire, as clear as the sky itself.
Sapphire pavement? Wow. Just imagine that for a second. A sky you could walk on.
It's mind-blowing imagery.
Yeah.
And it's placed right after the covenant ceremony.
Like it's meant to emphasize the significance of the agreement they've just made.
Exactly. Like, okay, things are about to get real. But then here's the thing that always gets me. Moses and the elders, they get this glimpse of God.
Yep.
They don't burst into flames. You'd think getting that close to the divine would be, well, a little more intense, right?
Right. It kind of challenges our assumptions about what encountering the divine would be like. Like, shouldn't there be more lightning bolts and, trembling?
Exactly. But Exodus says God did not reach out his hand against them. They hang out, they eat, nobody spontaneously combusts. It's surprisingly chill.
It is interesting, isn't it? And I think it reveals something important about the relationship being formed here.
What's that?
It's not just about fear and reverence. There's this element of intimacy, of closeness. Like they're entering into a relationship with a God who is totally other, totally beyond our comprehension.
Right.
But also somehow present with them, accessible in a way.
It's a pretty amazing paradox when you think about it. So we've gone from these laws promoting fairness and looking out for the vulnerable to a covenant that literally reshapes a nation to this incredible, awe-inspiring, but not terrifying glimpse of the divine. It's kind of easy to get lost in all the, the epicness of these stories.
Right. Parting seas, the mountaintop encounters, all that.
Yeah, and forget that these are stories about us,
Totally.
They're dealing with stuff we still think about today. Like, what does it mean to have a just society? What are we supposed to do for each other? How do we even make sense of the world?
That blew my mind. These ancient texts, they were written so long ago, but they still make us rethink things, our assumptions, the world, our place in it,
Absolutely. It's like they're offering a totally different perspective on life, on how humans and the divine connect,
It makes you wonder what they were onto,
Totally. And you know what always gets me? The Israelites' response to this whole covenant thing.
What do you mean?
It wasn't like they were hesitant or unsure at all. They were all in. Remember Exodus 24.3, all the words which the Lord has spoken, we will do. Like, where does that kind of enthusiasm come from?
It's a good question, right? Maybe part of it was just wanting some stability. They've been wandering in the desert forever, no clue where they were going, all that uncertainty, the struggle, it takes a toll. And suddenly, boom, here's this set of laws, like a guidebook for a better society.
It's got to be tempting. Right?
Totally. Like finding a map after years of being completely lost.
Exactly. Finally, some direction.
But I don't think it was just about that, wanting order and all. These were people who had seen some serious miracles.
Right. Plagues, parting seas, food falling from the sky.
Yeah. They'd been chosen, rescued, and now they're being offered this special connection with a God who had shown incredible power and love.
It wasn't just a contract, right?
Not even close. It was way bigger than that. It was sacred, a promise that would shape their future in ways they couldn't even imagine.
It makes you think about faith a little differently, doesn't it? Like, it's really about trusting in something bigger than yourself, taking that leap, even if you don't have all the answers.
Exactly. And even though we might understand the divine differently today, that human need for connection, for meaning, for something more, it's still there. That hasn't changed.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Exodus, it leaves us with a pretty big question. If you were there, standing at the bottom of Mount Sinai, hearing those commandments boom out, would you have said yes to that covenant? What would it take for you to make that kind of commitment to those laws, those beliefs? It's something to think about, even if your biggest challenge today is just, getting through that Monday morning commute. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.